Good morning, everyone. We're going to show the intro, and then we'll be right back with you live right after the intro. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Saturday PD.
Good morning. Happy Saturday.
I'm Dr. Sheka Houston.
And I am Tammy Taylor.
And we're welcoming you to our R.E.A.L.L Academy. We wanted to do a quick introduction to, if anyone is new, just let you know why we are doing what we do every Saturday. Tammy and I were both turnaround principals. We, with our great staff members, were able to bring our schools. I was at a middle school up 2 report card grade levels, and Tammy's school went up 3 report card grade levels in 1 year. And in order to try to help people not experience the pitfalls that we did, we decided to try to offer something that would help leaders, because we know that during this time, things are a lot more difficult before, with the pandemic going on. So we just want to try to help people as much as possible. Our website really defines exactly what we do. So Tammy is going to bring that on the screen, and I'm going to show you exactly what we do.
Absolutely. And while we're bringing up the website, we know that the struggle with administration is real. So as Sheka said, paying this forward is something that's really important to us.
Definitely. So as you can see, Create and Educate is our business where we offer educational consulting, and we are a literary firm as well. So we work with educators and also other organizations. NWEA recognized the work that took place at Tammy's school and is one of our affiliates, as you can see here on our website. They conducted a case study that is outlined. If you go to the website, just click on it. You can see all of the information from the case study. And Tammy is also a contributor to the NWEA blog. So when you have some time, make sure you check that out. Why you should be listening to us. This gives you all of the information about our background. Between the two of us, we have over 40 years of experience at the school level. We've been in various leadership positions, and we have basically instituted several programs and received lots of recognition in our state for the things that we've done at the school. So just take some time to read through that. But the services that we offer in education include our SEL reading program that we're going to talk about today. And our catalog is also on the website. When you click here, it will outline what we are really very proud of. And that is our 5 super strengths to a real resilient school. These are really the things that helped take our schools to the next level. And these 5 super strengths are respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership. So we work with school leaders, school leadership teams to make sure that you are instituting these strategies to help your school really become resilient. So if you go through the catalog, it goes through our complete framework, including what we offer on literacy, as well as how your school can become a certified Phoenix school. And lastly, the other resources that we offer, if you need some things that engages your staff or your parents, the collaborative is something that we host on Tuesdays, and you can click here to go to the previous broadcast. But a lot of times you need things to introduce a topic, or maybe you just need a different voice. You can use any of these free videos that we have from the collaborative to engage your staff members and your parents. And we also have our catalog where we work with independent authors to be able to bring you more diverse libraries and literature offerings to your students. And if you have not reserved your copy of It Doesn't Have to Be Lonely at the top, that roller coaster ride journey that we talked about in leadership is all outlined in our book, along with how we instituted those things from the R.E.A.L framework to really help improve our schools. So if you haven't reserved your copy of that, you're able to do that on the website, or purchase our previous book from our website where we were featured in Women Who Lead. And if you haven't already followed us on the different platforms, our platforms are listed at the bottom of the website. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We have a Spreaker page, Twitter, and also Instagram. So thank you so much. And we are ready to get started. So again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us through the intro. And as we had posted, it wasn't a repeat. So those of you that tuned in with us last week, see, oh, that was from last week with those same clothes on. It is a new feed. We just have it recorded. So I'm going to go through and make sure we're saying good morning to everyone. Good morning, Arcella. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Hicks, good morning. Richard Davis from Las Vegas, good morning. Good morning, Principal Kafele. We're looking forward to your the interview you have this morning.
Yes, super excited.
Yes. Good morning, Josh from Texas.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tammy.
Hey, Tammy.
And we're proud of you as well. Good morning, Jasmine. And
Jasmine.
Janine Wilkins. Oh, from Alaska. Good morning.
Hi there. Sheka, did we ever say hi and thank you to Jasmine last week? Because Jasmine was with us on site for our symposium.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't remember if we did last week or not, but yes, thank you, Jasmine. Dr. Babin is with us. And also Asia Burnett from New Jersey. So thank you all for joining us. So this morning, we're going to be talking about, as we posted, what it's like from a child's perspective to be a struggling reader. So I'm going to just show a quick video. The student is actually speaking. So we wanted you to hear it because it really shows what it feels like from that perspective. And this young lady is in 8th grade. Her name is Jade.
My name is Jade. I'm in the 8th grade, and reading is a huge struggle for me. Teacher would ask me to read in front of the class aloud. I'd open my mouth, but no words would come out. Not because I couldn't speak, because I couldn't read the words on the page. They were jumping around, backwards, blurry, sideways. D was a B, W was an M. I just kept it all to myself. I'm like, no one can relate to me. This is just my problem, and I have to deal with it. I have to find a way to deal with this. Oh my gosh. I can still remember the names. Idiot, dummy, slow, special ed. It's like every day going through that takes a piece of you. After a while, you just you get this numb feeling, like it just doesn't bother you anymore. That's when you get really worried. That's when you get really worried. When you get this numbing feeling, someone calls you and you're like, I don't care. They're right. That's the worst feeling in the world.
Middle and high school students who...
And I'm going to fast forward it just so we can hear the rest of Jade's story, because she does have some success. So I wanted us to hear that part too.
First grade, and I'm reading a book meant for toddlers. I'm a very sad person. I would seriously just say that to myself. And then my mom would come in and she's like, what are you doing? I was reading this book. She's like, oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, Mom, I can't read. The teacher talked to me. They said, we know that you have a disability, and we know how to help you. I would go through one line, she's like, okay, stop. And then she said, then she had on the board, like, it was like she already knew I was coming. Each word was separated. And she had a special board with, like, little dots. And she was like, what does it sound? What's this letter? I'm like, it's an S. S. And I felt really stupid. But at the end of the day, I can say that sentence. I was just like walking around at the dinner table. I'm reading. I was everywhere in the car. I'm sitting down in my roller skates, reading a book. I walked into a retreat. I had finished a book, and I felt awesome. And she reads the book, dancing around in my dad's football jersey. She's gonna play to the championship. I'm serious, and the crowd goes wild. I still have that jersey. I do, and it smells terrible.
So we wanted you all to see that video of Jade to first hear her struggle, but then hear how she felt after she overcame or, had some success around reading. And we thought this was important because sometimes as teachers, we may not have been some of the students in some cases that had that particular struggle, or, sometimes it may be a little bit harder to identify with students who struggle with reading or struggle academically if that wasn't your story. So I think hearing it from the student's perspective really puts you in that frame of mind that you need to be in to be able to help them. We know that, what the research says, that approximately 1/4 of students are below basic in reading. And that, we know that if they're proficient by 3rd grade, they're nearly 5 times more likely to graduate high school. So there's several implications around reading, and we know that helping our students read is something that is very important. And now with the pandemic, you keep hearing the term learning loss, and I want to shout out one of my colleagues, Dana Williams, who brought back a term that it is not learning loss, it's unfinished learning or pandemic interruption, because you can't lose something that you never learned. So we want to still be able to help our students overcome these struggles, even with the challenges that we have going on with the pandemic. So some of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention is when you're trying to cultivate that in your classrooms or at your schools. One of the things that was said by Jade in the video were some of the names that she remembers being called, and how it took a piece of her, being called an idiot or being referred to as slow or special ed. So we want to make sure that that growth mindset is cultivated in a classroom, because if you have a growth mindset around reading for students, then it's not that you have students over here who are phenomenal readers, or who you're praising. Oh, you're a great reader. You're actually praising them for their process and their effort. Because what it does when you start to praise children to be, we have a group of great readers. So then what does that make the other children? The not so great readers. And then that's when we create those biases that exist in a classroom. So we want to make sure that the right culture is cultivated, and that's usually around a growth mindset. So praising them for the effort. You really did a great job pushing through that. You really stretched those words out great. And in a study that we found with 5th graders, the group that was praised for their effort versus their performance really were more apt to meet challenges later on than the students who were actually told, oh, you're a great reader. Literacy should be a school-wide focus. Yes, that is so true, Jasmine. And sometimes with the secondary level, the level that I came from, that's where we struggle with, because some teachers and some people see literacy, oh, that's the ELA teacher's job. And it's not. Literacy is everyone's job across the entire building. So that's another thing that has to be cultivated in your culture as a leader of a school and as a district.
So I think sometimes you have to really make sure as leaders, we are making that message clear, because reading literacy truly is the key to all other learning. Because if you don't have a strong foundation in literacy, where the disciplines of reading and writing have been interconnected, then you produce struggling students. And when you struggle in reading, it transfers to every other content area, when especially when you get to um, third grade and beyond. Because one thing that Jasmine is correct on, you even when you get to fourth and fifth grade, we teach reading, and we teach reading as a subject, as a content area focus, but we aren't teaching children how to read. That isn't typically what we have to do. So we, even at the elementary level, have to really change our focus to be on making sure foundationally that children get what they need, so that when they get to third grade and beyond, they're able to read, to learn the other things that they're going to need to know.
You're exactly right, Tammy. And there was another article that I read where several states, I think it's 11, and South Carolina and North Carolina are one of those states that has instituted legislation requiring more of the science of reading being required by not just the schools and the teachers, but by the preparation programs for teachers. Because really, when you dive down into the real problem behind literacy, what has been found is that a lot of the programs were not adequately teaching the teachers how to teach children how to read, or that science that's behind it. And Asia saying we need
go ahead,
reading.
I'm sorry. But that's a strong component of the early childhood. That's where you get those foundations. And that's why I'm thankful to have that as my background, because it doesn't matter where you are. I taught fourth grade, but because I knew how to teach children how to read, when I had non-readers who were in my fourth grade classes, I could send them to fifth grade as readers, because I had that skill set. But it isn't something that is going to just be something, if you have not had that level of training. The other thing that I think is important for us just to note, I think sometimes we don't really spend enough time thinking about why our kids are getting farther and farther behind as readers. And it's almost one of those things where we're in this conundrum. We're trying our best to do everything that we can to catch them up and to accelerate them, because we've had this pandemic loss where that interruption happened, and now we don't know how much they missed, because they missed so much. And so we have programs and programs and programs and programs that they are suggesting, and that's what the program is for. They are selling the program to say, hey, we're going to help you with catching your kids up and closing these gaps. But I'm going to challenge us as leaders to think about this. No program can take the place of solidly good classroom instruction. So the only way kids are going to get better at reading is by reading. We're going to have to commit to carving out time to allow for them to have opportunities to independently practice reading. And I think that should be in elementary school and middle school, because maybe even high school. I don't know if that's realistic to think that they could do that. But if we don't carve out that independent reading time and time for kids just to practice reading, we're going to have children who have less and less stamina for the assessments that we give them. And we're going to have kids who don't know how to strategize their way through text.
Exactly. And somebody, Asia, brought up a really good point about reading specialists are needed at the secondary level. And as we see that focus on early literacy, we know how important that is because of if they're not proficient by third grade, that chance of getting caught up diminishes. But we can't just abandon the children who are without these skills at the secondary level. So you do need that balance. We need to make sure we're helping the children who, were not afforded those opportunities, or may didn't have those teachers with those foundational skills to get them what they needed. But we need that focus too on making sure that teachers have that solid background, like you talked about, Tammy, to make sure they don't get to third grade without those skills.
And that's another thing Asia is spot on about, because I was a reading specialist at the high school. And what I found, like, working with the kids was not a problem for me because I knew how to do that. But what we discovered very quickly, and the partner that was working with me was also someone who was from an elementary background. So we were able to bring that level of experience to the table. But what we saw was not teachers who weren't willing to do what they needed to do, but teachers that didn't know how
exactly.
To do that. So they needed that support.
And that goes back to what I said about the programs not really having it instituted to give teachers what they needed to know to teach children how to do that. So I'm glad that the legislation has done that, and there's lots of states who are focusing on it, but there's still so much work to be done. And if you listen to Jade and her, when she talked about and got teary-eyed around, it took a piece of her, and when you start believing that they're right, what's that doing to children? We've got to make sure that our children are experiencing successes, and it starts with those small successes in class where, she was cheering and felt like she had reached the Super Bowl when she was able to read a book, and how the quality of life that they're going to have when they graduate if they don't know how to read. We know it impacts employment, the crime rate, healthcare system, mental health, poverty. All of those things are impacted by literacy. So it is so important. And in education, another thing that we talked about before we got on, Tammy, is those biases that exist of how we have these labels, even around gifted and talented. When we look at the children who are gifted and talented, and we have these labels that we're only looking at academics, and then some schools and systems and districts don't even have the gifted and talented program for artistic children who, are artistically gifted in visual arts, dance, theater, drama, singing, or music. And then when we look at our students who are in the vocational center, what we label them as completers. Oh, they've completed the whatever the vocation thing is, or if it's plumbing. Now, and I just had some plumbing problems. And the young man who came to our house was a former student. Him and his dad did the plumbing for our house. Now, if you have plumbed up a whole house, that is gifted to me, because I sure couldn't do it. And a lot of
absolutely gifted.
Yeah, a lot of other people couldn't do it either. But why are we looking at that? Because it's in vocation, saying, oh, they've completed it, so we're going to call them completers. That's giftedness too. So I think we have to change our mindsets in education and what we're calling giftedness, and how we're celebrating children. When I'm talking about that environment, cultivating that environment, not just in the classroom, but in education, period. Look at what we're celebrating and what we're doing to children when they're not.
You have to think about what you're, the equitability of where we are. Like that's a whole other discussion. We have to be able to categorize and prioritize what we're saying about children and what they can do, because there is giftedness, I think, in all of them. And I know we're about to have to get off here, but I really do want to just remind people, please be sure that we are helping children to understand how important it is to develop those reading skills that will allow them to be productive and to be successful in every other area of their lives. So carve out that time for them to have practice with time just to read.
Definitely. And so we talked about we've heard Jade's perspective from a child who was a struggling reader, what that felt like, and how she talked about how it took a piece of her. And then we saw the other end of it where she started experiencing those successes and how happy she was, and even talked about how she walked into a tree reading a book, didn't want to put the book down after she started learning and experiencing that success. So cultivating the right environment is one thing that you can do. And also making sure that we're allowing children to experience those small successes, until they get to the point where they can read something fluently. We have to allow them to have small successes along the way, or otherwise they're going to check out and feel like, oh, this is not for me, I'm just not good at it. And then the last thing was something that we found, a study that was recently conducted with students across K-12 reading habits, just adding 6 more minutes to the times that students are reading. So on average, what they found was that the students who added just those 6 more minutes were succeeding or reading more fluently than the students who were struggling and not adding those 6 more minutes. So usually we say the average time is 15 to 20 minutes per day with reading. So just adding what this study is saying, 6 more minutes to that time, like Tammy talked about, developing that stamina for reading and carving out that time for independent reading time. This study has shown where that was impacting the students' performance in a positive way. So you all have made some really great comments about reading as well, and having reading specialists at every level, and we wholeheartedly agree with you. Literacy is something that we're passionate about, and something that we take to schools, to individuals, to be able to help people cultivate this in their schools. So if literacy training is something that you need at your school, or to improve your own practices as a teacher, you can reach out to us, send us an inbox, reach out to us on our website, because this is something that we're very passionate about. Children like what Jade described, we want to make sure all children are able to have the type of success that she talked about, and not that story that she told at the beginning where not being able to read was taking a piece of her. So
And I love this comment by Tammy, because that's really something that I think teachers try to instill in the kids, but stress to parents. Because if you put books that are of interest to children in their hands, they do try to read them, but it doesn't have to be a book. She was talking about a sports column or an
right.
article in a magazine. Let them read what is of interest to them. And then, of course, we are way over time and in Principal Kafele's time, but also this starts that conversation about having culturally relevant materials that kids can have access to, so that they see themselves and are interested in what they are reading about, because it reflects who they are.
Right.
Thank you guys. We appreciate y'all so much.
Yes, and just to add before we go off, Tammy, what you said, culturally relevant, but relevant, period, where they're seeing themselves and where they are identifying to things that they want to do. Like I talked about plumbing. If that's your goal, to be a plumber, there's several things that we could put in that child's hand to be able to get them interested in reading. And so a lot of times that where we talked about that bias of what we have deemed as things that are important for reading, we've got to build the relationships with our students to be able to know what their interests are, and then put those books that interest them in their hand to be able to have those successes, to add those 6 minutes that will cultivate them into being great readers as it's impacting their reading abilities. So thank you all for joining us. We are getting ready to hop on over to Principal Kafele, where he is interviewing, I think it's Miss Perez, Dr. Perez, if I'm not mistaken, this morning. So we're excited to hear that interview, and we hope that this was helpful. And we will see you on Tuesday for story time. And again, if you need that help with your school district or in your classroom with literacy, please contact us. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your weekend.